Introducing the remarkable archetype, the dangerous gentleman. With a demeanor that commands respect and a hint of potency, he embodies strength tempered by virtue. Though his capabilities could veer towards danger, he channels his power for noble causes, serving others and safeguarding those in need. Rooted in a profound love for both God and humanity, he navigates life with discipline and purpose. In his presence, one witnesses the harmonious blend of power and benevolence, a testament to the true essence of masculinity. Step into the world of the dangerous gentleman, where strength is wielded for righteousness, and discover a captivating embodiment of honor and valor. Greetings and welcome to the Dangerous Gentleman podcast. We're going to go a little off script today. See, I had a whole different topic picked out to talk about, but due to the fact that as of the recording of this, it is July 14th, 2024, and just yesterday, someone tried to assassinate former president and current presidential candidate Donald Trump. And I'm not going to spend the whole podcast talking about that topic. Everyone out there is talking about it. But what it did do is that it inspired me to talk about something that has come to be very important to me. And that is to dig deeper. See, right now, we're about 24 hours out from what happened. And facts keep changing, and the story keeps changing, and people are jumping to conclusions, and they are putting out theories and stories and suspects and timelines, and all of this information continues to keep coming out. And people are just buying whatever it is the current story is, whatever the news is telling them, or whatever their favorite commentator is saying, that's what they're buying. And that's a very dangerous thing to do, to just buy whatever it is that someone is saying. Now, I'm not saying to not trust people. I'm not saying to not listen to people. What I am saying is that there's often a time to dig a little deeper. And that applies to this specific situation, but it applies to a whole bunch of different situations in life. Okay? Go to different sources. Do some research on your own. Again, specifically in regard to the assassination attempt, read more than one source. Listen to more than one commentator. And if you want my honest opinion, stay away from the mainstream news and find some other people that you can trust. Whether that's on YouTube, on a video, or whatever it is, wherever it is, find somebody outside of the mainstream that you believe you can trust, that has a track record. So how does this apply here? Yes, we want to go past with the mainstream media narrative, but how does it apply in other areas of your life? And I'm going to give you several things where I have dug deeper into things and found more truth and more wisdom by looking beyond what everyone was telling me or what the popular opinion was. See, it's very popular right now in the field of like nutrition and health, this whole idea of healthy at any size, and that it's okay to be overweight, and it's okay to eat what you want, and it's okay to indulge yourself all the time. And that's the narrative that they're putting out there, right? That is not a healthy narrative. And like, oh, go low carb or go carnivore or Mediterranean diet or whatever it is that they're pushing. You have to dig deeper beyond what someone is telling you. You have to look because they're very good at putting together these flashy presentations on Instagram, on Facebook, or wherever it is, on web pages that make you go, wow, I want to believe what that guy says. He says it's going to be easy. He says all I have to do is follow these simple, basic rules, and I'll be good, right? And pick a diet. Pick whichever one. I've done it. I've been down that road. I've done all the different plans. And it was only when I really dug deeper and started to actually do the research for myself and doing the reading for myself and doing the experimenting and putting in the work myself, that I figured out what actually works for me. And it's not necessarily keto, it's not necessarily carnivore, but I have found something that works for me because I dug a little deeper than the surface, right? I dug a little deeper, and I talked to lots of different people, and I listened to different people, and I did the research on my own, and I dug a little deeper, and I found stuff that worked. Same thing applies for my gym time, right? Everyone was telling me, oh, you got to do this. You got to do high sets, high amount of sets, and high volume, and this, that, and the other thing. And it was only when I really started to dig beyond just what everyone was telling me that I actually found the secret. And I found the stuff that works for me, and it's going to be different than what works for you necessarily. Okay. So it applies to fitness, it applies to nutrition, it applies to health in general. And if you look at our healthcare system and you dig beyond, if you dig beyond just the surface level stuff that's going on in our healthcare system, you find out that there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that works, that is good for you, that is beyond the typical pharmaceutical drugs and surgery that the mainstream pushes. Does that stuff have its place? Absolutely. But should it be our primary source of healthcare? No, because there is a system behind it. There's a big money behind it. And if you follow the money, you realize that most of those companies aren't really out there for our best interest. But if you just look at the surface and you watch the television commercials or you see the internet ads, you're like, oh, hey, I got to take that drug. I got to follow that procedure. I got to do that thing and I'll get what I need. Well, you dig a little bit and you find out it's not for everybody. And you find out that if you have this, or this condition, it doesn't work for you. But they tout it as this great and wonderful thing. So healthcare, fitness, nutrition, it applies there. For me, I also had to dig a little deeper in regards to my own personal faith, in my relationship with God. I had to go beyond the faith of my parents. You see, I grew up going to church. My parents took us to church. It was a big deal. We went every Sunday. We rarely, if ever, missed. We had our Sunday best, and we went to midweek service. And like growing up, church was a big deal. God was a big deal. And I had a relationship with God, and I had a relationship with church. But it wasn't until later on in my life that I realized that that foundation, it wasn't built in me. It wasn't built in my relationship with God. And it was built on the fact I had the faith of my parents. And there's benefit to that. There's benefit to a faith that is passed on. But I realized that all those years of going to church, I didn't own it. I didn't own my faith. And so my life started to fall apart. And so did my faith, that I didn't have what I needed underneath there because it was reliant on other people feeding me information. I would go to church and I would listen to the pastor, or I would listen to my parents, or I would listen to this teacher or that teacher, and I would just absorb whatever information was in front of me, whatever presented the most compelling argument at the time, whatever appealed to the emotion or reason that was currently going on in my brain that put the pieces together for me right in the moment. But it was only momentary. And then I would have another question, and I would have something else that came up. I would have another struggle or a challenge that I couldn't answer. I didn't have what it took to get past it. And so I would struggle and I would crumble and I would fall again and again and again when it came to my faith. And it looked good on the outside because I was doing what the things that people were telling me from the outside. And so one thing before I go on, don't take this the wrong way, but we do need to find people that we can trust. We do need to find people whose opinion like we can follow, who have a cohesive argument and have some of the answers, but no one has all of the answers. And if we are relying on other people to present us the information, if we are relying on other people to give us the answers and the steps and the action to take, then when that stuff doesn't work, well, we can just say, oh, I did what this person said. I did what this person told me, and it didn't work. Therefore, it is their fault. And we can cast that blame on someone else because we were just following their advice. But you got to dig a little deeper. For me, I had to have a major collapse and understand that I had to believe in God and I had to believe in the things that I needed to believe in. And I'm the one that ultimately had to take responsibility for my actions and my choices. And I couldn't blame the fact that someone told me what to do or told me what to believe or whatever belief system. I couldn't blame any of that. Like I had to look inside myself and realize that I had been shallow in my faith. I had been shallow in my understanding of how to be a good father and a good husband and a good human being. That was all shallow because I was just doing what other people were telling me to do. When you see or read a piece of information that resonates within you, make sure that you go beyond just reading it or seeing it. Understand it and make it yours so that you know that it's on you and that you made that choice and that you made that decision and that it's you that's following through. And it may be a good piece of advice, but you are the one that has to put it into action. And you are ultimately responsible for putting it into action or not putting it into action. See, a lot of times we get this advice and we think, oh, yeah, I'm just going to do that. And we kind of do it halfway and then we blame the person. And we say, this person gave me this advice and it didn't work out. And then if you look at yourself, you realize that you were following a recipe, but you decided you wanted to tweak it a little bit. Well, when you tweak a recipe, you can't expect the same results as the original recipe. It's going to change it. If you change the cook time, if you change some of the ingredients, whatever it is, it's going to change the final outcome. And if you're okay with that happening, then by all means, do it. That's cool. Experiment, tweak it a little bit, make it yours. But just expect that the results are going to be different. And if you can make it better, cool. If you can't, then go back to the original, right? Own it. Make it yours. Dig a little deeper. Dig beyond the surface, right? And there is so much depth out there. The problem is that so many of us want to just stick to the surface. And when you stick to the surface, all you're going to get is surface. And you're going to listen and you're going to take what other people have to say. You're going to take whatever is force fed you through the media or through friends or whatever it is. All you're doing is looking at the surface. You are easily swayed from one thing to the next. Whatever the hot topic of the day is, whatever the current thing is you're going to get behind it. Whatever the news story, whatever the hot trend is. And then when that changes, you have no foundation, right? I'm going to use the old cliche example. A tree with shallow roots gets blown over very easily. And that's the same thing as what I'm talking about. When we're just looking at the surface, those roots just go down a little bit and it's easily pushed. It's easily swayed one way or the other. But when we dig a little deeper and we allow those roots to go down deep, something can push on that and it's not going to change. Like the news can change and we're still going to know. We're still going to know what our truth is. Trust me, it's fun. When you start to actually dig into some things and you start to really own it and you look beyond what everybody's telling you, there's gold out there. And it's so much more interesting and it's so much more fulfilling and so much more rewarding to dig down in there, to dig deep and find those nuggets. One more quick thing, one more quick personal application. So my business has been kind of stagnant. My chiropractic business has been a little stagnant recently. I kept trying to do the things, I kept trying to grow, And I thought I was doing all the things that I needed to do to make my business grow, but it wasn't. So obviously, I was missing something. I ended up having a conversation with a guy who's a business coach. And I actually was on his podcast and we were talking about all of this. And he helped me to really see some things, like some ways that I thought that I was doing what I needed to do, but in reality, I was just scratching the surface. There was so much more out there for me. It's been so helpful so far that I've actually engaged in some professional, ongoing business coaching with this guy. And I'm about a week into it, and I'm already realizing how much I was missing. I'm realizing that there are so many more things that I can do to grow my business. And even though, yeah, I was doing these things to grow my business and they weren't working, I had to look beyond just what my own personal opinion is. And this is that time where you have to, like, there's a time to rely on other people and to look at other people and take their advice. And then there's a time to take your own advice. I've talked about that before too. When you're taking your own advice and it's not working, that's when you need to go look to other people. And so that's what I did. And that's what I've been able to do over the last couple of weeks of working with this guy, and has been so helpful to break through some of those negative patterns, right? And I still am doing some of the same things that I was doing to build my business, but I'm approaching them much differently. I'm not just like checking boxes. I'm doing them with some intentionality, and I'm taking them and I am making them my own, and I am applying those same principles and those same ideas, but I'm applying them, putting my own blood, sweat, and tears into it, right? So dig a little deeper. I've done that with my health. I've done that with my business. I've done it with my relationship with God. And I've done it also when I'm looking at current events. And so this whole thing about the attempted Trump assassination, there's going to be all kinds of stuff coming out in the next couple of days. And it's going to get wild and it's going to get crazy, and blame's going to be thrown here and there. My encouragement in that specifically is, yes, dig a little deeper, look beyond what the news is telling you, but apply that same principle to your relationships, apply it to your business, apply it to your job, apply it to your health. There is so much depth in the world, and we spend most of our life just skimming across the surface because it's comfortable, and because when we do that and things don't go right, we can often shift the blame to other people. But when we dig deep and we make that information and we make our life our own, that's where the true riches come from. Like I keep saying it, but there's so much more to the world beyond our phones, beyond staring at a screen, beyond whatever the latest clip is on Facebook or Instagram. There's so much more depth to it. Read a book. Find people you can trust. Take the lessons that they teach and make them your own. So I hope this encouraged you a bit, and we'll talk to you next time. So if you like this content, please give it a rating, a review, and share it with your friends. Also, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about me and what I'm all about and what I can maybe do for you, check out my website at thedangerousgentleman.org. That's thedangerousgentleman.org. Thank you for listening.